Hello and welcome to Pastor's Perspective, sponsored by Biola University, ranked as the most comprehensively Christian university in North America. I'm Brian Perez, and we are coming to you today from the campus of Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, and we will not be here tomorrow or the day after. So call us today if you've got a question. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until next week. Actually, next month. Technically, 888-564-6173 is the number to call, and we'd love to chat with you. We're going to be here till 4 p.m. Pacific time, 888-564-6173. And answering your questions today, we've got Pastor Brian Broderson from the aforementioned Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. He's going to be here along with Bobby Conway, who's joining us from Hawaii, where he recently got to see the birth of his two grandchildren, his grandsons. We were introduced to them yesterday. If you didn't watch that, you can go back on Facebook and YouTube and see those adorable little twins. And you can find that on yesterday's, that would be the November 26th episode of Pastor's Perspective. So what's going on, guys? How are you?
Good. Good to be with you guys.
Yes, doing well. Doing well.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah, happy day. It's really quiet around here today.
It is.
You know, it's kind of like a ghost town. Everybody's, I guess, prepping their turkeys for tomorrow. And, yeah, it's been a good day. Spent the day with a friend, you know, just talking about ministry and kingdom stuff and Jesus and all that good stuff that we get to do.
Great conversation.
Yeah, so that's good. And once again, my wife said, make sure today when you go on the radio, make sure you mention the Christmas coffee that is coming up, which I posted something on my Instagram today for that. But December 7th, our annual Christmas coffee for the Ladies Ministry. Beth Redmond, the wife of Matt Redmond, will be our special guest speaker. And Molly Toms, our little amazing vocalist from London, England. So it's going to be a bit of an English Christmas.
Nice.
And it's going to be great. So information is available at women.cccm.com, and I think registration is there as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And look who's joined us.
Look who walked in.
It's good to be here. I was talking about you earlier today, Brian Broderson.
Were you really?
I was.
Were you saying nice things?
I always say, what would there be anything else to say about
Well,
it?
Some folks have found quite a few negative things to say.
Brother, it's 2024. If you don't have people mad at you, you're not doing anything significant. I was actually planning with John Lennox. And John Lennox, you love John Lennox. So we have this apologetics certificate that people are already taking now at the Biola University, Talbot School of Theology, but we're updating it. So I don't even know if I should announce this on the radio. So it's now in partnership with the Oxford Center for Christian Apologetics.
Awesome.
And while you're there next week, week after next, teaching with me at Oxford University, John will be recording in the other room for our apologetics certificate. But we also have a lot. It's like all your friends. Amy Orr Ewing's in the certificate. Charlie Stiles is in the certificate. Who else is there?
I like all these
Alfonso,
people.
you know, Raheel, you know all these people.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Brian Broderson. So that's the new apologetics certificate.
Awesome. So John's going to be in Oxford.
He's going to be in Oxford. Well, doesn't he live there?
Yeah, he does, but he's not he's not on the campus.
Right, he's not at Wycliffe. It's kind of weird because people don't know that Oxford's not really a school. It's a bunch of schools.
Right.
So he's coming to Wycliffe Hall to record.
Okay, good.
And I don't think he'll be there Monday, but...
Okay. Well, maybe, it'd be good to just see him.
Oh, yeah. But we got a great lineup, and we love apologetics at Talbot School of Theology.
You know, I was thinking today about, now I know our friend John Dixon doesn't like the term apologetic.
He's in the apologetic certificate, so he can complain all day long. He's recording this week, too.
And we have the 1 minute apologist with us.
Wait, who's that? There's a 1 minute apologist?
This is a past life, the 1 minute apologist.
I also want to say that I've never see him keep to a minute on anything. So it's rather ironic. It's like, I don't know. It's a bit like ironic marketing, I guess. It's like the eat more chicken from the Chick-fil-A people.
Right.
1 minute apologist, if I could only.
Yeah. But here was my thought today, because I was thinking about something else. I was thinking about theology, and I was thinking, really, like in early church history, the theologians that emerged were really, in a lot of ways, they were first apologists.
Oh, for sure. Think about Justin Martyr and others.
Right,
I mean, very much so.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I think, those two things are connected.
Well, I do think that apologetics is becoming increasingly, I mean, if we can go down this road, I'll ask Bobby a question, but it's becoming increasingly important because people, as the culture becomes more secular, they're starting further away from basic understanding of the gospel. But it's also changing. Whereas, Sean McDowell's our best-known apologetics professor by far. He's a professor, full-time professor at Talbot, also a speaker and a writer. But if you look back to his dad, Josh McDowell, people were like, evidence that demands a verdict. Is it true? That was the question. Is it true? Prove it to me. That the evidentialist apologetics. Over time, it's shifted, and now it's moved to more, is it good? Is it beautiful? Is it right? So we're right now hiring another apologetics professor full-time at the Talbot School of Theology. Again, we have the largest apologetics program in the whole world, and people can take it online. People can do the whole degree online. Yeah. But I do wonder if I can ask Bobby a question. Bobby, why? I mean, I know you're an apologist, so you're a little biased in this, but does it seem to you that the need and interest for apologetics is increasing or decreasing? And do you also see the shift that I talked about from more is it true to is it good?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a time where people felt very intimidated to get into it. There's still lots that are intimidated by the word, but getting into like the different arguments from natural theology, to debate the atheists, there has not been the loud voice of the new atheists that you had to compete with some pretty robust arguments. Now apologetics is taking on much more of a cultural flair. So cultural apologetics, where you've got a lot of people who live in a niche, and it's not giving arguments for the existence of God, but it's giving an apologetic for the Christian worldview in a particular piece of life, whether you're defending the Bible against CRT or LGBTQ. And that is where a lot of people are finding their lane, where in the past, apologists did need to be trained in a very broad scope of things, even, to know how to answer the Bible, be dropped into several passages. So one of the strengths is you got a lot of people doing niche work, but one of the dangers is you lose out on the benefit of being a real well-rounded apologist if you don't understand the arguments for the existence of God, how to defend the Bible. But I'm thankful that more people are coming into this realm and less intimidated, and social media certainly has made that possible. And you have a lot of people, I think, that get into it and it's good, but the danger that I see happen sometimes is you'll get people that they're not holistically trained yet, and they're getting a large platform on a niche, but you can see some of the kind of the potholes that you can run into if you still don't appreciate the broader scale training that the Talbot School of Theology offers.
Look at him. Yeah. I appreciate that. He didn't go to Talbot School of Theology, but I appreciate him. Bobby, I feel that love.
But he could be a future lecturer or
we're working towards that because we love Bobby, and he's well trained in this field. And I do think, it does seem to me, Bobby, that sometimes the apologetics folks who don't get, again, I want everybody to feel empowered to share with as much as they know, with whoever they love, et cetera, et cetera. But if you start getting into some of these things, like I said, you can, I was thinking of one person who just created this huge YouTube channel just refuting the arguments of atheists, he said. But it was like, that's not really the arguments of atheists anymore. So sort of knowing those things really does help. So I'm a big fan. That's why, again, you can do the master's degree, which I think is great. And again, it's people do it online. It's people all over the world do the master's degree. But with the certificate, it's actually lower entry. Anyone can do it. It's more affordable. And it's just crazy. So we got J.P. Moreland, but then we were just talking today. So we're trying to figure out. Okay, we got J.P. Moreland. He's talking some about science but Lennox is like, we're going to talk about transhumanism and AI.
right.
Like have people, you got to Google transhumanism in 2024, but it's a big, big thing. And these are discussions you're going to be having.
Yeah, Lennox's newest book that's about to come out is on that very topic.
It's almost like we knew that.
Yeah.
So have you had him over to preach at Calvary Chapel? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because he's like amazing.
Oh, he's absolutely
So I was
and he's an amazing Bible teacher.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was some of we also said, well, he could just do the Bible.
Yeah.
And because not all the apologetics people are necessarily, just says, but he has his PhD's not in Bible. But when I was there last time,
his several PhDs.
That's he collects them. He collects them like I collect matchbook cars. So I was speaking. I mean, I don't know. Speaking is the right word. I was there in Oxford teaching at Wycliffe as I do. And the ACA people, ACA stands for the Oxford Center for Christian Apologetics.
Yeah.
That's in Oxford. It's not part of the Oxford University. Wycliffe is. So they say, hey, would you come over and do a devotion? So I said, sure. So, their staff, I think my guess is you've probably done this, but they have this.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So I once a month, the timing lined up. So they said, so they were having lunch. Everyone's got their sandwiches. And they said, would you give a devotion? So I give this devotion. But before I start, John Lennox walks into the room and sits down. I'm like, I didn't know I was doing a devotion to John Lennox. I would have dressed better. I would have prepared more.
Right.
And afterwards he asked some very insight. What's his wife's name?
Mrs. Lennox.
Mrs. Lennox. There you go. Mrs. Lennox asked some great questions too. But I will tell you, I was intimidated. I'm not like generally intimidated in academic settings, but I was there, and he was very kind to me. And
yeah,
Sally.
Well, I did a conference.
Sally, is it Sally?
Sally, yeah, it is Sally.
Okay, yeah.
I did a conference one time. We did an unbelievable conference here with John. And
it sounds like you're using unbelievable as like an adjective. The conference is called Unbelievable.
It's called Unbelievable. Yes. And Bobby was at that conference, and I remember like talking about it intimidating. I was standing up there with John, and we were answering questions together, and I would just like, well, let John answer first, and then
I'll pick the scraps up off the table. Oh, it's so crazy. And I will tell you who right now publicly on the air, because I told you there was a possibility of a certain person showing up.
Yeah,
he's not going to show up.
He's not.
He's moving that week. N.T. Wright was he talked for us last time we were there. He's not going to be there. It was always a possibility.
Yeah,
but he was waiting for his car. I mean, I'm probably giving N.T. Wright's business all over the airwaves. He was waiting for his carpet and stuff to be installed because they're moving that week. So they're
well, and you remember last time I was there, he was there.
I know. That's
and
what I'm saying. We had a great time,
conversation and stuff. Yeah, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of apologetics, there is an apologetics conference happening early next year at Cornerstone Community Church in Wildomar, and our friend Bobby Conway will be one of those speakers. Cornerstone.org is where you can get the details. Actually, there's no details yet because I don't think it's coming up right away, but you can either bookmark the page or sign up for the newsletter or something, and I'm sure you'll then find out when Bobby will be there.
That's at our good friend Andy Dean.
Mm-hmm.
It's at his church, yeah.
Yes.
Andy Dean, I know that name.
Andy Dean,
Calvary Chapel guy?
Andy Dean used to be he was the director of Calvary Chapel Bible College.
Yes.
And he got his MDiv
from
Southern.
It shows up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went to Southern, got his MDiv. And he is a board member of Calvary Chapel Bible College.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
Super. Which is now in Twin Peaks?
Twin Peaks, California.
Okay. All right. And has a cooperative agreement with the Talbot School of Theology, so we love you.
Yes, absolutely.
And accredited now as well, right?
Yeah.
ABHE?
Yeah, ABHE.
ABHE, yep.
Wow.
That's Association for Biblical Higher Education.
Yeah.
And love that.
Yeah.
So it's a marker of good things.
Yeah.
So.
And Moody is accredited through them as well.
Very
and
good.
Our good friend, we have a good friend who is, what is James at Moody? James
Meeks, he's on the board of trustees.
Yeah, he's on the board.
And he's got his honorary doctorate.
Yeah.
So he did the master's with you.
Yes.
And then a week later, he got an honorary doctorate. So he graduated the master's on, May 22nd, and on May 29th, he was a doctor. Now, it's an honorary doctorate, and we are not against honorary doctorates. So I'm receiving an honorary doctorate.
Well, especially a guy like James. I mean, if anybody deserves a doctorate, James does, so...
Yeah, so I'm going to be at Jessup University getting an honorary doctorate. And someone said to me, are you opposed to honorary doctorates? I'm opposed to people running around saying they did a doctorate when they get an honorary doctorate. But you should, if you get an honorary doctorate, that's an honor. That's a great thing.
It is a great thing.
That means that, Billy Graham had 87 honorary doctorates. He didn't go around despising those. But what's interesting is he wouldn't let anybody, everyone calls him Dr. Graham.
Yeah.
But that's not what he wanted to be called. He said, I don't have an earned doctorate. You should call me Mr. Graham.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever been around the family or around I was leading the Billy Graham Center at Wheaton College, is that they would always correct you if you said Dr. Graham. Even though he had 87, I think it's probably 87. And
I think even though his TV program, they would present him as Dr. Graham.
Did they really?
Oh,
okay, I don't remember that. Okay, yeah, he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And then, over the last few years, few people, puffing up their credentials, now people are a little less. Do you have an honorary doctorate from anywhere?
No.
We should give you an honorary doctorate at Biola University.
No, I don't want one. Because
why does Calvary Chapel Bible College not give you an honor? You're like the king of all things. You're like what are you,
Calvary
the
Chapel
chancellor?
Bible College can't give a doctorate.
That's not true.
Is it really?
Any institution can do an honorary doctorate.
Oh.
It's an honorary doctorate.
Okay.
Can you get me one too?
Yeah, let's pass them out. Bobby's got an earned doctorate. 2. Don't you have 2 earned doctorates, or is it 1?
He's got 2.
Yeah.
You guys are both the doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor. He's got the PhD from University of Birmingham or something like that. And then what do you have? What's your other one? Is it a D-Min or what is that, Bobby?
Yeah, it's a D-Min in apologetics. I did it at Southern Evangelical.
Because you couldn't get into Talbot, or why'd you do it at Southern Evangelical?
Well, I was pastoring in Charlotte.
Okay,
and so
I forgive you. And Norman Geisler. Yeah. I mean, Norman Geisler is the guy.
He is. I mean, and Norman Geisler trained practically every apologist of Bobby's generation and older. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, we were a little later, and then our program just started to boom. And again, it's largest in the world now. But still, and Veritas was like a partner with you for a while.
Well, we started Veritas with Dr. Geisler after he left Southern.
Okay, left Southern. Because I know when they did Veritas, it was at Calvary Chapel Bible College.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now it's in Phoenix or something, isn't it?
It's in Albuquerque.
Okay, Albuquerque. But is it with Skip?
Kind of.
Okay, Skip Heitzig down there. Okay. So I know that they're...
So I was the chairman of Veritas board for 8 years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was the founding
You're
chairman.
like, I come back to where I started. Brian Broderson is everywhere. Everybody knows him. Mm-hmm. And they say to me, do you know Brian Broderson? I'm like, yeah, I yelled at him in Israel for being the slowest walker in our entire group. Do you remember that? You kind of mosey when you're in Israel.
I wanted to take it all in.
No, you're a mosier.
No, I've always moseyed.
But you're a fast walker at other times. But when you're in a tour in Israel, you're like a mosier. And everyone else is like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. No, not everyone else, just you. You're the one that's
fair. I'm
hurrying everybody along.
Ed is like
caffeine. We all just nicknamed him. He was sort of like the elementary school teacher that snapping the whip. Come on.
But who was always the last person? Just say it. Who was always the last person? Brian Broderson.
I was ministering to a lot of the folks.
Nobody was ministered to.
Yeah.
They were like, come on, Brian, we got to go to the next thing. Or maybe that was just me. I don't know.
It was just you.
Apologetics, and then we should go to like Israel. And
let's talk about apologetics for just one more minute, because I want to talk to you guys both. I want to bring up this name, Dan Barker.
Okay.
I listened to Dan Barker kind of do a little bit of a debate on the C.S. Lewis podcast with the Surprised by Oxford lady. What's her name again? I always forget it.
Oh, she's great. We just did the movie on campus. Carolyn Weber.
Yeah. And I listened to this conversation back and forth. And Bobby, you probably know more about Dan Barker maybe than Ed does. But I mean, how does this guy have any credibility? I mean, I listen to this guy and I just think he
wasn't a win, huh?
He doesn't make any sense.
You know where he went to school?
Huh?
You know where he went to school?
Yeah, he went to Azusa Pacific.
I shouldn't say Azusa Pacific on there. Azusa Pacific is a fine school. We're thankful. Their president's great.
Well, I heard him talk about going there, and then I heard him talk about what a smart person he was, and I thought, that's the debatable.
Yeah, he was actually ordained. Okay, and then he was a Quaker for a while, like our good friends at. We got a bunch of like Matthew Cork and others. So, and then Assemblies of God for a while.
Well, here's the crazy story about him: is he, so his whole thing is that at 15 years old, he really, had an experience with the Lord, and for the next 20 years, he went out and he was an evangelist, he was a missionary, he was a musician, preached the gospel.
Really?
All of this stuff, And then he started meeting people outside of his circles, and he started finding out there's more things, Christians believe different things, they have some disagreements and so forth. And, that just kept going and going and going until he finally got out to world religions, and then he finally became an atheist. And yet, I just found his whole approach, his argumentation was so flimsy. I just can't believe the guy has an audience. That's what shocked me. So, Bobby, you know more about him. I think you've even...
Have you debated him, Bobby?
Have you done something?
So, I'm actually not real familiar with him. I recognize the name, but I haven't read any of his stuff, and so I'm just kind of absorbing what you're saying about him.
Well, I'm
looking online. I don't see he doesn't have a lot of publications.
Well, he says he has a couple books.
He's with the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Yeah, right.
And he wrote. This is fascinating. Mm-hmm. He wrote the song "Mary Had a Little Lamb" with Manna Music. Remember that musical?
Yeah,
he wrote that.
He talks
about that, and then his fleece was white as snow. Of course, I'm reading on Wikipedia, and they can't put it on there if it's not true.
Yeah,
and then he's writing for Skeptics in '90, so he kind of moves away. So he's written several books. I read The Losing in Faith from Preacher to Atheist. I read that one years ago. That's in the '90s.
Yeah,
Life-driven purpose. Boy, I can't imagine where he got that theme from. Purpose-driven life.
Just switching the words up, right?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Well, I listened to him, like I said, do this sort of the question was, because it's a C.S. Lewis podcast, the question is, are C.S. Lewis's arguments still relevant today?
The liar, lunatic, Lord stuff?
Yeah, not even
just
that.
More than that, okay.
But he was like, C.S. Lewis's arguments had never been relevant, period, because he got everything wrong. And, you're listening to this guy. And then Carolyn Weber, she's so brilliant. She's so articulate. She's just sort of, you could almost see her like, kind of scratching her head like, wow, I don't even know how to respond to
Okay, so let me tell you Carolyn Weber's story. Let's gossip about Carolyn Weber live on all of our radio pattern.
Well, I saw the movie. I have the book, but it looks really thick. So
we showed the movie on campus. We have this thing called the Malcolm Initiative for the Arts.
Yeah.
And so we showed the movie there and had a great turnout from students and everything. So, but here's the secret story of Carolyn Weber right now. I'm going to send her this so she hears it. Yeah. So my daughter, who I just literally came from the movies with, so she lives in Chicago now, but she's graduated Wheaton College. She was going to go up to Canada to go to school. My children are all Canadians. Mm-hmm. She got into there are 3 elite schools in Canada she applied to, and she got in 2 of the 3. This is Kristen, the oldest. The oldest. Yeah, the oldest. I don't think you would have met her as much because she was living in Canada when we were doing the academic program. So she wanted to go to a school where Carolyn was based, connected, which is a secular school in not in Toronto. It's outside of Toronto. It's called Western. And Carolyn Weber's like, we got this. Let me know. We'll connect her and do all sorts of stuff. And she was she's a big deal. She got a movie made about her.
Yeah.
And my daughter ended up going to the University of Toronto instead. Mm-hmm. And she was super gracious about that. And so I got to see her when she came to campus to do this. She was there for the showing of the film. Mm-hmm. And she remembered all that. And I think she's awesome. She lives in Franklin now, Tennessee, because that's where all the people live now.
Right, I saw that, yeah. Is she Canadian?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't actually specifically ask her.
Yeah, I think she is. I think
Canadians are basically Americans. There's not real difference. So I say that my wife's Canadian, my 3 children are dual citizens. So
it's North Montana.
It is
basically
true.
North Montana.
When you drive across the border, the only thing you're going to find that's different is Tim Hortons,
which is, can I just say, amazing.
And they're making their way south of the border. I mean, they have come down a little bit. Yeah.
The Tim Hortons or the Canadians? Because the Canadians, I did hear they're crossing the border a lot. I think there was something came out of that in the news the other day. But they seem pretty happy up there.
They're fleeing from
peace, order, and good government. So that's in case people don't know, peace, order, and good government is like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for us. So people are like, what are you saying? Yeah. But Canada.
Well, the prime minister is a little bit of a problem.
Did you know? Okay, we are just a little like stream of consciousness today. The prime minister, you know what the Alpha course is? Of course you do.
Yes.
You know what the Alpha course is?
Don't tell me that he took it.
He took the Alpha course.
Are you kidding me?
It didn't seem to stick.
Didn't do anything.
But he did. If you Google Prime Minister Trudeau, the son, Justin Trudeau, because his dad was a prime minister, has not made it. You'll know, but not everyone might know. And then the Alpha course, he actually did an interview. Like it helped him to understand spirituality more.
We need to talk to Nikki Gumbel about that.
I told him. I told him that. He said, I knew. Everyone tells me about that. He said, leave me alone. So we were having tea in wherever we are, and where does he live? It's like in this neighborhood not Wilberforce, where Wilberforce used to live.
Well, last time I was with
Clapham.
Nikki,
He lives in Clapham now.
Right,
so,
he did. He moved.
And he had Nikki had Donna and I over for tea.
Oh, yeah.
And we really enjoyed him. Right now, he's really working hard for a fight for orthodoxy in the Church of England. That is, I don't know that they're going to win.
It's a big deal. And then Justin Welby, speaking of another Justin, who recently
just
resigned from the Archbishop of Canterbury role over this thing that goes way back with this
John Smith.
Yeah. But I think he should have resigned a long time ago over other things because he pretty much ditched the faith.
Well, he theologically, he came out of HTB, which is a solid evangelical church. I mean, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea because it's pretty charismatic. It's very much like a vineyard in America. Mm-hmm. But I love it. I've been there many times and love him. And so Justin Welby came out of that church, and that's a solid evangelical church. Matter of fact, he did this interview that when he started speaking in tongues, which is not a phrase you expect to hear from the Archbishop of Canterbury. It was like he got chickenpox or something. He was trying to make a joke about it, or it was so shocking to people. And yet, he just is sort of I was in Oxford, living in Oxford, when the Diocese of Oxford's bishop, the largest diocese in England is the Diocese of Oxford, when he came out in favor of same-sex marriage. Right. And then I think it was London, and they all did this together. And then Welby, he's losing the global Anglicans. Yeah. You think about the more Anglicans go to church in Nigeria than all of the UK.
Yeah. And a friend of ours that I will not mention his name told me about a conversation with Welby as he was really sort of leaning more.
I think evolving is what people called it here. So
yeah, as he was moving more in that direction, a friend of ours who comes from that world told me personally that he had a moment with him that was a prophetic moment where he literally warned him, do not go.
Wow.
God will deal with that.
Right.
And I thought, this is the Lord dealing with it.
And I would say all the way back around to apologetics, that questions like that is how do you navigate questions around sexuality? Those are one of the key issues in and around the area of apologetics. So it's not just, is there evidence in archaeology? It's also, what is God's intent and design for humans and more.
But you know what I fully agree with your first statement. And that there are these questions now that center more around, is Christianity good? Is the biblical worldview a good worldview? But I think that it's still, people are different, and some people are it's going to be more the evidential stuff that's going to be helpful to them.
That's going to be the thing that persuades them. You need to have a broad training.
Yeah. So over the years, where you had like the conflict or sort of the debate between evidentialism and presuppositionalism and all of that, you're kind of like, well, each situation, it varies from person to person. Sometimes you're going to do a presuppositional thing. Sometimes you're going to do an evidential thing. I don't think it's either or. You're just you need to be able to do what the person is. Yep. Whatever their issue is, that's what you need to be able
ready
to
give an answer to the question.
Exactly.
And, do so with gentlest respect. Starts where they are.
Yeah.
888-564-6173 is the number to call. We're going to take your calls in just a little bit. But since we're throwing all these names around, did you hear Hal Lindsey passed away?
I did not hear that.
Yes.
Wow.
How about that? Like today?
It was either today or yesterday.
How about that? I didn't know that.
What was he? Was he 90?
95.
95?
Yes.
Last I saw him, he was still going strong on a TV program on one of these Christian networks. So, yeah, he died November 25th. So just Monday. Wow. How about that?
Well, yes. That is, end of an era.
Yep. Wow. The author of The Late Great Planet Earth, which the New York Times said was the best-selling nonfiction book of the 1970s.
Wow. And a popularizer of this historic view called the pre-tribulation rapture that was that like something that would have influenced Chuck and Chuck Smith and Calvary Chapel?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Chuck knew Hal, and
that's cool.
they were friends.
Cool.
And I saw Late Great Planet Earth before I was a Christian. It was. They made it into a movie. They made it into a movie.
There was a film. I didn't know there was a film.
Yeah, I remember going to the movies and watching it.
How do I not know there's a film?
I don't know.
I'm supposed to be trained. I'm a failure. I didn't go to Talbot. I would have known if I went to Talbot.
Probably such a high production film too. I don't know how you would have missed that.
Exactly.
Thief in the Night.
Look, there it is.
No, I saw Thief in the Night. Is that the film?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, there it is. Look, it's better than Thief in the Night. It's
wow. I do recognize that. Okay. 1978. Yeah. I was a new Christian.
888-564-6173. Your questions coming up in just a little bit for Brian Broderson, Bobby Conway, and Ed Stetzer, the Dean of the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University. You can find out more about Biola at biola.edu. Biola.edu. And we'll be right back with your questions at 888-564-6173, 888-564-6173. We are back on Pastor's Perspective. Thank you so much for listening on the radio. Thank you for watching us online on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram Live. Make sure to download the K-Wave app so that you can listen to us wherever you go from 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday. 888-564-6173 is our number, and we've got Brian Broderson, Ed Stetzer, and Bobby Conway here. Brian's the pastor of Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa in Southern California. Bobby's the pastor of Image Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Ed is the dean of the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University. Biola.edu is how you can find out more. It's because I felt you just looking right at me.
I know, but you didn't say edu. So that's biola.edu, which stands for education, not edu in French.
Ah, right, because it's spelled different for one thing.
Exactly.
Yes, ed.edu. That's where you can get more details. I'm joking. All right, here is Dan. Dan wants to talk to the dean. Welcome to Pastor's Perspective, Dan, with a question on Song of Solomon, chapter 5. Go ahead.
Hi. They use myrrh in this passage, not in the traditional sense, like burning incense, but they have the woman covering her hands with liquid myrrh. I don't know what the usage of myrrh is in this passage. I do know that myrrh can cause heart palpitations, I think, and damage to liver when it's used too much. So I'm wondering what the usage of myrrh is in this passage.
Wow. Could it be that maybe they didn't know about these complications thousands of years ago? I don't know.
Maybe. Maybe not.
What do you guys think?
It is also has effects of relaxants and a mild sedative.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that would be probably the usage. And I'm just guessing because I don't know anything more about it than Oh, you sound like you know more about it than I do, actually. But I think common sense would just say, if what you're reading says that it's a relaxant or something like that, if you're rubbing it on your hands, it sounds like it's maybe a bit therapeutic or cosmetic, even.
Well, let's keep in mind that the Song of Solomon's about something. So,
well, let's not talk about that.
So, well, I'm just saying that
we have already been down many.
It is about something,
rabbit
holes, and but I think the Bible does not give us a clear answer. As you know, it's chapter 5 says, "I gather my myrrh with my spices," and myrrh, of course, is used for things like anointing oil to consecrate kings and priests. Mm-hmm. It's used in Queen Esther's purification. It's used in embalming. There's a lot of uses for that, but it's not clear. So is it something in a marriage relationship to keep people happy and smelling nice or relax them? It could be that as well.
Well, what did the first one say? The first one said it was not
anointing?
Anointing.
Yeah.
I mean, so could have been any one of those.
But it doesn't say, which is, I think, why it's a good question. It just one of those things where, like, you get this kind of reference, you're like, what's going on there? But I would wonder, Dan, do you have a thought about what that might be?
Well, she's meeting her beloved. He's at the door. He wants to get in. She goes to cover her hands with myrrh, liquid myrrh. And he leaves before she gets to the door.
Right.
So there's not much direct implications of what it's used for. There's inferences. We could probably draw a few inferences. I'm not sure if it'd be okay to mention all those.
It might not be, actually. It might not be. But thank you for your call, Dan, just considering that I think Dan may be onto something, reference to those inferences. But, it is, moms are driving home with their kids after school. So, Dan, thanks for your call.
Maybe her beloved had turned away from the door because he knew that liquid myrrh was not.
He probably could have known that it caused heart palpitations.
You never know. Bobby Conway, what do you think?
Bobby's going to add?
So I would take it more like they've had some conflict. It's a story between Solomon and his Shulamite lover, and one of the ancient rituals would be to use myrrh and put it on the doorknob. And some would say that, according to custom of the day, that it would be a sign that I was here, and it would be a perfume, like a love note. And so, if indeed she opened it, then you would have a word order that might throw the confusion. She opens the door and then says, "Oh, then I had this perfume on my hands." It seems like that happens before, but it's also possible that, if you just look at the story and not this direct word order, that Solomon came and he leaves some perfume on the door as a gesture, a love note of sorts, to say that I was here. So that's another possibility of that as well.
Well, I like that one. I think that's.
I didn't see that. I mean, I think Bobby got better than us. I think Dan has more thoughts, but we were not sure we could put Dan. Dan, we're for you, man. Thanks for calling in, but we're a little nervous about putting you on here.
This is why Bobby is the doctor.
He's the 1 minute apologist.
Yes.
And you can call and ask Bobby more questions at 888-564-6173. That's 888-564-6173.
Evan in Carlsbad, California. Welcome to Pastor's Perspective.
Hey, good afternoon, pastors. Thanks for taking my call. Happy Thanksgiving to all you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Evan.
Likewise, bro.
Hey, I just had some kind of general questions. Just the main differences between the Orthodox Church. A little familiar with the Roman Catholic Church, and obviously like the Protestant, the three kind of main branches of Christianity. I see a lot of kind of rise in the Orthodox Church here, and through friends and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of curious: are the Orthodox Church? I mean, is there any doctrinal issues that would separate us that affect salvation? Kind of just, like I said, I'm just educating myself more. I obviously align with the Protestant church. I was saved in the Protestant church, attend a non-denominational church. But I have friends that say, hey, they argue against, did the church get it wrong for 1,500 years? Did they, they claim it's the true church and things like that. Obviously, I know there's differences between the Roman Catholic and Orthodox regarding the Pope. But I've heard some weird things, like I said, with salvation, that they think it's a process. And I hear Orthodox people like never definitively claim that they're saved, and it's just like a theosis process. And like I said, I just wanted to hear your thoughts. If there were main differences to where it affected salvation, if it's general, anything like that, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Appreciate it.
Ed, we'll start with you.
If only one of us had parents who were evangelicals, who converted to Orthodoxy, and then stepfather became an Eastern Orthodox priest. But I do. That's actually my situation. So, and my mother's here visiting. Matter of fact, I should tell my mom, listen right now on the radio show. So Father David Randolph was my stepfather. He died last year.
Yeah,
you remember? We talked about that.
Yeah.
And so they converted to Orthodoxy, and yes, there are there are pretty significant differences between Orthodox folks and I would say, you could say he said Protestant, and that's true because that's the solas. So sola scriptura being one of the big differences for sure. But I'm guessing, the way Evan asked that question, that was not an amateur level question that he was asking. So he's actually had some, theosis, things of that sort. He's talked about some of these things. So Peter Gilchrist wrote a book that was, so Gilchrist was, one day, I don't know where this was, the 90s. Yeah, you can pull it up. It's Becoming Orthodox. He's pulling it up on our screen, so that's what I'm talking about. So Gilchrist, I'm adding another letter in there. There's a whole bunch of them that in the 80s, I think it was 300 of them, pastors, graduates of seminaries, a lot of Campus Crusade people and others, they all converted to Orthodoxy one day. And our caller's right in that the Orthodox means straightway. It means that's so they do believe that they're the one true church. Now, Catholics historically, sometimes I don't really understand fully what the current Pope believes, but Catholics, there's actually a doctrine, extra ecclesiam nulla salus, outside of the church there's no salvation. So Catholics also believe that. Protestants don't tend to believe that. They're like, you go to Calvary Chapel, we like you. You go down the road to Mariners, we'll still like you. But the Orthodox still tend to believe that. So the bigger differences, I would say, are sola scriptura ora. So in evangelicalism, which is a slice of Protestantism, it's kind of a renewal movement within Protestantism. We believe that the Bible is the final authority even over the church, whereas they wouldn't use the same language as the Catholics. There's twin pillars of Scripture and tradition. But the Orthodox Christians believe the Bible and the church are both originated by the Holy Spirit. I would say he specifically mentioned salvation and theosis, where it fits in that. Evangelicals tend to, this is literally what we're going to be teaching next week at Oxford. The school there is an Anglican school, but it's in the evangelical tradition. So I start by explaining what we call punctiliar conversion. You were in my class when I explained that, punctiliar conversion. So as evangelicals, and most Protestants historically have believed this, not all, there's a point in time that before which you were dead in your trespasses and sins, and then you receive by grace and through faith, you're born again, and you become a follower of Jesus. So that's punctiliar, think of punctuation, moment in time where you become a Christian. Whereas Orthodox is different. It is a long-term process. It begins with baptism, includes the sacraments, which we would tend to see differently as well. And there's a lot of other stuff. There's, deification. There's all kinds of distinctions that are there. And there's actually a dialogue. I was invited to be a part of it. I declined it, not because I thought it was a bad idea. There's this evangelical Orthodox dialogue. I just that's kind of what I have in my family. My parents are giving me books trying to convert me when I was younger to Orthodoxy and more. So, but those are a few examples. There's maybe lots more. Bobby will want to jump in and share.
I was thinking to the, the very Protestant doctrine of salvation by grace alone through faith alone.
Through faith alone, sure.
And that would be a big distinction because, of course, you do have that, like Ed, you just mentioned, the point of time where there is a conversion that is by grace through faith. So I think a couple of things I've picked up on is, the big emphasis in the Orthodox Church, the emphasis seems to be more on the incarnation versus in Protestantism and even in Catholicism on the redemptive work of Christ.
Yeah.
So that was
I would say that. It's less, the technical term would be forensic, geared towards that kind of justification.
Right,
it's more transformation. That's a fair way to put it.
Yeah. But, funny enough, Hank Hanegraaff, remember Hank?
Yeah. I wrote a 3,000-word article because of the unique journey I was on, saying, kind of critiquing his conversion.
Yeah. Well, I just randomly ran into a guy in the market the other night. He says, "Hey, Pastor Brian, I came to church this week and I loved it," and on. And, we just kind of talking. And then he says, "Hank Hanegraaff's one of my best friends. And I just talked to him and he loves you Calvary guys. And he used to be a Calvary guy."
Yeah.
Yes, he was ordained as a Calvary Chapel pastor. But he converted to Orthodoxy. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that guys who convert to Orthodoxy out of, let's just say the broader term of evangelicalism, people who have had an encounter with Jesus, I don't think they're denying that they had that encounter with Jesus and now they're going to go back and try to insert themselves in some process that'll eventually, hopefully, lead to salvation. I couldn't imagine that Hank's doing anything like that.
No, I didn't. And I would say, we've had some people at Biola who converted to Orthodoxy or Wheaton, and they, or even it's like Francis Beckwith was this prominent evangelical. He converts to Catholicism, and he still says, "I can affirm everything in evangelicalism." I'm like, well, you really, I'm not mad at you, but not really.
But I do think a lot of it, a couple of things. I think people are drawn to the historical nature of these movements. Roman Catholicism is the same way. People think of all of the history, and they see that they see it as more stable than Protestantism. Maybe too strong. But
a lot of evangelicals feel like Christianity was discovered in 1980 when they got a guitar and they got a Bible on a stage. So,
exactly. And so with both Orthodoxy and Catholicism, there is this idea that you're connecting to something really historic. And the other thing, I think, is you're connecting to something that is reverential. Yeah. It's highly it respects divine things. It magnifies the... like a cathedral. A cathedral is much different than a warehouse. So we establish churches and warehouses. These guys build cathedrals.
It's true.
To the glory of God. So a lot of times what I've found is that's been sort of the draw for people. Like they just want something more substantial.
So become an evangelical Anglican. I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Become an evangelical. I think you have to make so much change theologically to embrace Orthodoxy and Catholicism. So, and again, I'm not, I've, it's family. It's family. I grew up Catholic, and my parents, but I'm also a conservative evangelical, and that's where we are at Talbot. That's where we are at Calvary Chapel Bible College. And
you're a Baptist. I mean, just admit it.
I am Reformed Baptist with some charismatic leanings and premillennial.
Soon to be pre-tribulation.
No, I have a Bible, so I'm gonna.
Hey, but now you've got my book. It's going to be.
That's true. Yeah, I do not have your book yet, but during the break, good listeners, Brian Broderson was trying to convince me of the pre-tribulation rapture, which Christians didn't believe for 2,000 years, but now suddenly it's very important to Brian.
Hey, I've always said this, Christians lost grace for about 1,000 years. So if you can lose the central doctrine of Christianity, you can certainly lose some peripheral ones.
That's fair. That's fair.
You can read that book that Brian's going to give Ed online. Backtobasicsradio.com. It's called Caught Up. You can get it for free. It's a download. Again, that's at backtobasicsradio.com. Click on store, and you will find that free ebook.
It is a very basic and unacademic approach. So, Ed, just so you know.
I am basic and unacademic.
I'm not writing a paper for my master's degree.
Yes, I've read your papers for your master's degree. And let me just say that you're an excellent writer.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Bobby, any thoughts on
But let's go to
Orthodoxy?
Bobby on Orthodoxy.
We need Bobby to solve it all, because Orthodoxy is very big in North Carolina. Tell us, Bobby.
Yeah, right. No, well, you guys did a great job. I mean, the church has always seemed to struggle with splits, hasn't it? And so in 1054, you had the Great Schism, where the Western Church, and the Eastern Church kind of became two separate entities, and some of those big issues have already been discussed, like iconoclasm. It would be one such issue. Yeah. Theosis, the filioque, so the idea of that that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father, and the Roman Catholic Church would say, and the Son, and the
Gospel
part,
of John would agree with the Roman Catholic Church on that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah.
No, I just had to.
Sorry, Bobby. Sorry for the blurting
the
from
filioque.
Chapel.
I remember one thing, Ed. I do remember about our theology class.
One thing you remember at your theology class.
Well, one thing. We had a lengthy conversation just about the word, the filioque, or however you want to say it. But I mean, I don't know. Like sometimes a word will just kind of strike you as a funny word, and then you'll go off and have all this fun with it.
Wow.
So we did that.
Bobby, I just want to apologize. Yes. What were you saying before the pastor of Calvary Chapel went off on filioque?
Well, we probably shared a lot about the Greek Orthodox Church, so yeah.
Then we will move on. Ray in Ontario, what did you want to know?
Hello?
Go ahead, Ray. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is, what is your take on flying saucers or things like that? My take, I think they're like demons that are trying to deceive the Christians. So what is your take on that stuff?
I want to know from Bobby first, because I think Bobby has a strong opinion on this that he's been holding back on us.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, I don't think we can know for sure. I mean, I don't think that that the sighting of them is something that hasn't happened. I believe that it has, but whether or not they're actual flying saucers that people are seeing. I just remember, like, my parents in the 70s, we were living in Laguna Beach up on the hill. Can you imagine? We had a oceanfront view from the mountains up there, looking out at Catalina Island, and rent was $500 a month.
Wow.
on Laguna Beach. Wow. Yeah. So this was in the 70s, and my parents saw this, this ship, I guess they would call it, right? They thought a UFO. Really, UFO just means unidentified flying object, right? And it just sped away real quick, but there were several calls that went in saying they saw the same thing that night. And so I have no idea what to do with it, because here's the deal. Let's just say there is existence on another planet somewhere, and they figured out a way to, check us out. I don't believe that, but I can't prove that it's not possible. So I can't say for sure, but it's also possible that it could be, some kind of a demonic way to throw us off and get us to not believe in the unseen realm in that way, but to believe just simply in, aliens from another planet. So I just think there's options when it comes to this, and I don't think anybody can be for sure, because there are different arguments that you could use, and none of us can really prove for sure what it is, because we don't have a concrete flying saucer that we know of. At least, some would say that they're hiding out in, Arizona and Nevada.
Oh, Roswell, baby.
But, yeah.
I just heard something a couple of days ago. I mean, our government is essentially saying there are these, whatever they are, unidentified flying objects or whatever. I mean, this guy was somebody from the Pentagon just saying, well, this is absolutely happening. We don't know what it is. And I thought, oh, wow.
Well, if there's life on other planets, then I'm sure that he must know. You recognize the song?
And he's been there once already
and has died to save their soul. Yeah. That's Larry Norman, by the way.
That's because he's an unidentified flying object.
That's so true. They were so dating ourselves. But Larry and I had that on cassette back in the day. I don't actually think. What's that, Bobby?
That would not be that if we have that and we have some aliens that are like in some tube like Han Solo, over ice, this would just go to show that it wouldn't be demonic, that there is actually life on other planets, and we just are waiting to hear for sure.
So you basically think Independence Day is like a documentary, that we have them frozen somewhere there? I'm of the view, I think I'm in the minority here, that there's nothing out there. I'm of the view there's nothing out there.
Well,
I would say the Fermi paradox, we've got all the billions, we haven't seen anything else. I would say the lack of von Neumann machines, which is how you'd probably explore the universe with self-replicating machines to go out and find intelligent life that's out there. We've been scanning the skies. If you asked me in the 70s, I thought that place would be teeming with life. Now I'm just kind of the view. And here's the thing. There are 4 billion cell phones on planet Earth. If folks are visiting the planet, there would be pictures. And and so I don't know. I'm just thinking.
No, I'm with you. I'm not. I haven't. Just because the Pentagon is saying it, I don't believe much that's coming out of the government.
I think a lot of those unidentified flying objects are balloons and this other stuff. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, I'm a science fiction fan.
Yeah.
So I'm a science fiction fan. But I just say that as long as we've been looking, we haven't found anything yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, with the Hubble and all that, I mean, it is so true. I mean, I would definitely lean more toward. I don't know what to say about the moments like what my parents saw, like with the darting away. I don't know, like some shooting star phenomenon. I mean, it's difficult.
But I want to say, Bobby, that I called it, that you were going to have a story related to a UFO. I called it right here.
You're a prophet.
I'm a prophet, and I work for a nonprofit organization, but I called it right here. And what I would say, too, is I don't even think that's like a Christian thing. Now, I mean, as a Christian, I would be, I wouldn't be, it wouldn't collapse my faith if there were life on other planets. Right. But what I would say is, from a scientific thing, it's, where are all these people? And I think scientists are all now increasingly saying that as well.
If anybody will find out for us, it's Elon.
Elon.
We just.
I'm not sure Elon's not an alien.
Well, a lot of people are asking questions.
People are saying.
We just got a few seconds left. Yeah. I think we should do a lightning round of thankfulness. Ed, what are you thankful for?
I am thankful that my 3 daughters are going to be home for Thanksgiving. My mom's here, and I'm thankful for family.
That is great.
I'm thankful for you guys and that I get to, don't cry, that I get to host this program. I've been doing it for 7 years now, and it's been awesome. Bobby?
I'm thankful for my grandbabies that were born just a few days ago.
I am so jealous.
Yes.
I need some grandkids.
Amen.
But I need husbands for the daughters first.
And I'm thankful for my amazing wife. And I'm so thankful for my family, my kids. The greatest thing in all of life is to have your kids following Jesus. And I'm just thankful that mine are. Sure. I'm thankful that I have a new grandbaby coming at the end of May. And
you have grandbabies?
No.
Okay.
I am thankful for each one of you guys. You're each a blessing in my life. And I'm thankful for these Wednesdays when we get to hang out.
We do have fun. We do have fun.
Yeah.
I left my movie early to be here. I was defying gravity, so I left my movie here.
I just saw the live performance in London 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's pretty. The movie was great until the last 10 minutes when I had to leave to get here to be on the show.
Yeah, well,
we thank you for
tell you about it.
All right, you guys, thanks so much for listening and for watching. We're going to be back next week, Monday, December 2nd. We'll talk to you then. God bless you guys. Remember, you can catch up on past episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Brian Perez for Brian Broderson, Ed Stetzer, and Bobby Conway. Have a great Thanksgiving. Pastor's Perspective was sponsored by Biola University, ranked as the most comprehensively Christian university in North America.